everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a full review of Gen V Season 1. Now there'll likely be spoilers throughout this review, so just beware when going into this overall video. Now Gen V is a superhero series that's a spin-off from another superhero show known as The Boys, which is produced by Amazon. Now we know The Boys as a live-action adaptation of the comic book series of the same name, which was created by Garth Ennis. Now the series of The Boys was a deconstructive commentary on what if superheroes were much more corrupt and self-serving. We see this in the form of the Seven, people with abilities who were known as Supes, who work for the powerful corporation known as Vought International. Now on the outside, the Supes are celebrities and poster people for certain propaganda and media clout, but behind the scenes they were created by Vought, who injected their parents with the powerful substance known as Compound V. Now the story's main heroes are a rogue group known as The Boys, who led by Billy Butcher, look to expose the corruption and the false image presented by both the Seven and Vought. Now the story of Gen V takes place after the events of the third season of The Boys. And this is where we focus on the next generation of Supes, who have been brought up and recruited into the Goldolvkin University of crime fighting, which is also run by Vought International. The students themselves have inspirations to become superheroes one day, just like the Seven. And the story follows a main group of protagonists, whether it's the likes of Marie Morale, who has the ability to extract and manipulate blood from herself and other people. Her roommate Emma Meyer can alter her size, either shrinking really small or increasing herself to much more larger capacity. Andre Anderson can control and manipulate metallic objects. Kate Dunlop has the ability to control people with her mind. Jordan Lee is a gender shifter who has the durability and can fire energy blasts. And all of these characters come with their own personal journeys and dilemmas, and they're trying to establish themselves. Now events take a significant turn when a Supe named Luke attacks his father, who was the chairman of the university, and then proceeds to kill both him and himself. Saddened by the loss of their friend, the group start to investigate what happened and steadily find out that everything is not as it seems. Their concerns are alerted even further when they encounter Luke's brother Sam, who has superhuman strength, and they learn that he's been the victim of experimentation. Now the group delves deeper to uncover more secrets and conspiracy, and they eventually find their lives under threat. Now admittedly, when Gen V was announced as a series, I was very skeptical, as I felt this would be a typical spin-off to try and appeal to a much more younger teen audience, and I really wasn't sure that the younger characters could be as interesting or compelling as the adult characters seen in The Boys. However, because I like The Boys series so much, I was very curious enough to give Gen V a chance. And for its first season, I was pleasantly surprised at how good it was. It really is the right way to do a spin-off to a popular series. It takes place in the same universe as the main show, but it doesn't overly rely on it. Yes, we have cameos from characters from The Boys, but they're only fleeting appearances for the most part, and it wasn't confusing for anybody who hasn't seen The Boys before. The most significant appearance came from Congresswoman Victoria Newman, who's integrated into the story really well in the last couple of episodes. We see her taking the Supe killing virus from Dr. Edison Cardoza and then killing him. She also meets up with Marie and talks of how they have similar growing up and upbringings and also abilities. And I think Victoria Newman's presence is a great example of how you can take characters from other parts of the universe and actually make them important to the overall narrative. And Gen V's story itself, I think, was overall very compelling. As each episode, we would find out a bit more about the conspiracy and experimentations within Vought, and this would keep you hooked into the story. And this is very similar material as what we saw covered by The Boys. And in tone, of course, it is closer to that series. We get plenty of graphic violence and sex scenes, and just like The Boys, I think at times they do go a bit over the top and cross that line when it's a bit unnecessary. We see this especially in the opening episodes, and these were scenes that I felt they just didn't need to go that far, but fortunately they didn't really derail from the overall story. And again, like The Boys, I feel the cast of characters were really interesting and watchable. And in comparison, they're not quite the flawed, messy characters, the absolute screw-ups is what we see from The Boys. I'd probably say that these characters are far more proactive as opposed to the characters from The Boys, who are much more driven by Billy's main motivation. Now, out of all of the characters, I'd say the most interesting are probably Marie, who is likely the main protagonist of the show. I think Emma has a very strong connection to Sam, and Kate goes on to have one of the most interesting developments, as it's revealed later on in the show that she actually assisted in wiping out the memories of the others, as she was working together with Indira Shelty. And this I think was a nice little twist in just overall upping the stakes and the ante in terms of the story. We also have some depth with Jordan Lee's character, as we see that he or she is very much looked down on by his parents for taking on a certain appearance. We also see that Andre is burdened by the weight of expectation from his father, to be some sort of poster boy in terms of how superheroes can be for the future. So there's a lot of interesting material for these characters to keep you invested as to where their story goes next. Now, the overall villain of the story in the beginning turns out to be Indira Shetty, who is one of the deans of the university, and we find out that she was coordinating in the experimentation of the students, as she wanted to eliminate all of the Supes after her family were killed on a plane by Homelander, which I believe happened in season 2 of The Boys. The virus that she and Dr. Condoza were creating was originally set to sedate the Supes, but we find out that she wants to take it even further by releasing the virus into the atmosphere and overall kill every Supe on the planet. And while she was introduced very early on, I don't think she was quite the in-depth character that she really should have been. I just think a bit of more work could have been done to really make her an imposing antagonist of the show. And when we come to the overall finale, we see the dynamic shift, where we see that Kate and Sam become far more of the antagonists in a very action-packed episode where they go to set all the captives free from the Woods facility, and they absolutely run riot throughout the university, killing all the non-Supes in very explosive and graphic ways. And this is where we really ramped up all of the tension and excitement and all of the chaos. Now, one interesting development was seeing how they used the sonic whistle in disabling the Supes. Now, I thought this was interesting because I don't believe we saw this before used in The Boys, and it did open a question as to why exactly they haven't used that tactic before. After all of the carnage, we then get to the moment that I'm sure would have got all of the fans of the show excited, when we see Homelander showing up at the end and we see that he blasts Marie, before we then see Marie waking up alongside Andre, Emma and Jordan in some sort of closed-in medical facility. We then get the usual media cover-up where they announce on the news that both Sam and Kate were the actual heroes in trying to disable the outbreak of the Supes. So who knows, maybe we'll see these characters try to be integrated into the 7 in The Boys. How will Kate recover from that horrific injury caused by Marie when we see her arm being ripped off in a very gruesome moment? It will be interesting to see how that further develops in both season 2 of Gen V or indeed season 4 of The Boys. And then we had the latest scene where we see Billy the Butcher showing up in what I assume to be what was left of the Woods facility. As we all know, he was taking the Compound V substance in season 3 of The Boys, and he only has a certain time to live. So maybe he will discover some sort of cure or antidote in the 4th season of The Boys. So really, this was an absolute cracking finale and a really good supposed segue into what we may see in the 4th season of The Boys. And I think in terms of Gen V, the finale, like the show itself, again showed how you can produce a spin-off in the right way. Instead of doing a prequel story like what we've seen so often within the Star Wars franchise, they decided to stay in the current continuity and take the story forward. Yes, we have certain links to The Boys, but it didn't take any identity away from Gen V as our own series. As I mentioned before, you don't really need to watch any episodes of The Boys in order to know what was going on within Gen V. So yes, overall, I think it was a pleasant surprise for Gen V. I think it shows again that if you have good enough writing and good enough characterization, you can produce a really good superhero show. This is something that have been sadly lacking throughout this year in particular, when we look at the likes of both Marvel and DC, which have fallen far short in terms of the quality that they've produced, certainly within the superhero genre so far. So we then asked the overall question, how good is Gen V when compared to The Boys? Well, I would still say that The Boys is probably the most, is still the most superior show. I just think there's a bit more complexity, 3, 2, 1, in terms of the characters. But again, Gen V is just starting off. So hopefully in season 2 and perhaps a potential season 3, we will see even more diverse and complicated characters and complex storylines that will really add much more weight and texture to the overall show. 3, 2, 1. So overall, it's not quite as good as The Boys, but overall, it's a fine 3, 2, 1. But overall, it's a fine companion piece to that superhero series. 3 to 1 to a fine superhero piece so far. So here's my overall thoughts and feelings. 3 to 1 when looking back at the first season of Gen V. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any others, and if you have any other topics, subject matter, or television series or movies that you'd like to see me cover, feature one within the channel, also let me know within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please consider hitting like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.